Well, we're here at MDI High School again as part of our weekly Meet the MDI Teacher, and I'm joined by Becky Keefe, who is one of the special ed teachers here at MDI High School. And Becky, you've got, I know one of the hardest jobs is my wife is a special ed teacher at Nokomis High School, and I guess we'll go into it in a minute, but how long have you been here?
I've been here since 2004, though I had a year as a middle school special ed teacher back in the beginning as well.
Right. All right. And so a special ed teacher, I don't think people have an idea as the mountains of paperwork that's involved in monitoring your caseload for each student. I mean, they have a IEP, which is an individual education plan, and you're responsible for transcribing minutes of the meetings, of the notes, disseminating that to all the students' teachers, and then following up to make sure that any adaptations and things like that are...
It's a slightly different, I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
one thing is a little, I think you're referring to probably what your wife does.
Yeah.
We are spoiled in
Okay.
that we have a secretary,
Oh, good
administrative
Lord.
assistant, Laura Sullivan, who
Okay.
is an angel and a goddess. I have done the job elsewhere without her, so I am so grateful to her because she does a lot of that paperwork processing for us as far as disseminating
Right.
information to families and the central office. And we have Power School, which
Yes.
parents are familiar with. So things like a student's accommodations and perhaps a little profile to give sort of a snapshot of what that
Right.
student needs, that goes to teachers. And because they're part of an annual team meeting, then they learn what is relevant that they need to know for their classroom settings
Right.
from being a member of the team in the meetings. And if for some reason they aren't there, then if there's something I think is germane and that they really need to know about the student, then I might, contact them or consult with them.
Right.
So that's kind of how that piece works with the paperwork, but you are right, there's a lot of paperwork. And it depends on the student and the student
Yes.
need. It's very, it's each student is different, and we also, many of us have students who have 504 plans.
Which is physical adaptation or emotional? Okay.
That's a different arm of
Okay,
the
yeah.
United States government. That's the American Disabilities Act.
Okay.
And so the IEPs come under IDEA.
Okay.
And
Individual developmental.
yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever. But that's a case, covers the student from K-12.
Okay.
The American Disabilities Act is something that has to do with access to the curriculum.
Okay.
And that is a whole slightly different arm of the U.S. government. That's something that is relevant beyond K-12 to a
Yes.
student. So, and it's more about accommodations and access to the curriculum. And so for some of us, we also case manage students who have 504 plans.
Okay.
And in some cases, those kids also need an awful lot of support beyond what you might make assumptions about. I think that one of the things in this field is that every student is so individual and different.
Oh, absolutely.
As are we all.
Yes.
But how we deal with each student is different because of that.
Right.
So.
And so you have annual meetings about each student.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is a triennial meeting. Mm-hmm. So every 3 years, everything has to be adapted. And then as you have students leaving, you have to, as they graduate, you have to prepare something in case they're going to college.
Call it a summary of performance, and and those triennial every year, I think it's safe to say, we try to do business a little differently. We're a department of 6 special education teachers. And because the needs that come in are different every year, we do business differently each year.
Right.
So for example, we have a life skills teacher. We also have a teacher who is handling a program called the Turnaround Program.
Okay.
So students for whom Compass Rose did not work, and yet they really do not do well in a traditional setting. They are at risk for dropping out, but yet they really need one-on-one support. That program, he works with students there. We used to do all our testing for those triennial evaluations. Now we've divvied that up. So one of our teachers does the testing, and we used to also have to do the direct instruction that the IEP designates, what skills someone has some skill deficits in, and what target skills do we need to work on. We've spread that out. So we have a teacher doing that direct instruction and helping other professionals to give that as well. But every year, like I said, we do it a little differently.
And then every time that you have new students coming in, you've got to have a meeting as they enter high school.
Mm-hmm. A transition meeting. What are their needs? What do we think what in our array of services here at MDI High School will match that student best? And that may change year to year. I mean, a lot of my work as a case manager is, it's connecting people, whether it's connecting a student with guidance, with the math lab, with Megan Smith, who does the Title I reading, or I think that this teacher would be a good match here. Going to that teacher with a heads up, the student's family, getting to know the student. It's a lot about making connections.
Right. And any time that a parent wants to have a meeting, you have a meeting.
Yeah, right. We had Owen Logue, who used to be a director of special services here. I also took, in my training, I took a class from him. And I remember one thing I really took away from that was your relationship with your families is so critical to the success of how a student does here.
Right.
So really, a lot of the laws are being driven by those families. So some of the things we have to do seem ludicrous because they're meeting a legal requirement, but they're there for a good reason.
Right.
And ultimately, you're there to make things fair, the playing field fair for students and their families. So if a family wants to have a meeting, we have a meeting. We are, your wife would appreciate this. One colleague I know says that a year in special ed is like a dog year in regular ed, the 7 years.
Yeah.
And which is not to say I don't think that regular ed teachers have it. They have a very different load. I'm married to a teacher, and I know how many papers he corrects every weekend. So it's different. I write, we have different demands, emotionally even, spiritually. I worry about people in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And I compartmentalize well during the day, but they do haunt me sometimes.
And it's scary because everybody comes from a different background. Nokomis High School in Newport is very different from MDI High School. I know that
we have we have a unique population. It
Yes.
really is very different constituents.
But I know that we have students in Newport that come into my wife's room because they're hungry. Mm-hmm. And, you've got a drawer full of snacks, and you sit there and it's how can students attempt to concentrate when their stomachs are growling? Mm-hmm. And this is despite the fact that students some students are eligible for free and reduced breakfast, free and reduced lunch. But and when you sit there and you say, oh, well, it's Christmas vacation, isn't that great? for a lot of these kids, it's not because they're down 2 meals. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, you know what that's like. I mean, you know,
I think too that the school is a good place for emotional support and regular, predictable structure
yeah.
that can make students feel safe and that
And we
things
all
are
need
predictable.
that. I mean,
yeah.
even I mean, I don't adapt well to change. And it's, you know, if you've got that rigid or semi-structural, this is your blocks and you're going to here.
Yeah.
I mean, we all work better in some instances under that.
This room that we're in right here now, this is where we have what we call a supported study hall. So students can get attention for getting their help on their homework or what have you. You're sitting in a chair that I always make sure I have a chair where I can talk privately to a student or have a connection if they need that. Often I go for a walk with them so we have more privacy.
Right.
But I think that some of the best work, I mean, why do I do this is because of the connections that I make with the kids sometimes. And I think that we don't have, well, I'm not aware right now in this year, in this semester, of the hunger issues, though I have seen that in the past as much, hence the drawer. But the need for for an adult that they can trust, that to process, to turn their mind inside out, to try to articulate what's going on, that or not. You know, sometimes each one is so different.
Well, I mean, you think of high school, you have ages from what, 14 to 18?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's quite a...
And you think about the emotional difference and the physical difference between,
I mean, you see them
freshmen
beards going around here that are, wow. You know.
And it's funny because when I was in college many years ago, I was a dorm director, and they said, you know, look, remember that these incoming college freshmen, first-year students, they're 4 years removed from being freshmen in high school. And yes, they're at the top, and they've just come from being the kings and queens of their high school. I mean, they're the top dogs. They've been there for
it's
4
like
years.
The 8th grader compared to the 9th grade freshman.
I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with all of that as well.
Yeah, the immaturity of a freshman, some of them, are the Beavis and Butthead kind of thing. You know,
Mr. Brown, can you...
And then on the other hand, sometimes if I stoop to their level and, you know, make a joke about something that's on that level with them, then we
bond.
Yes, exactly. I have a kid I really like a lot who has definitely given me some gray hairs that I'm covering, who I made a joke with him about catching gravy on his belly for later, and he loved that. And, you know, he knows that there's some things about him that I get that I don't pass judgment about, and, you know, we can joke around. And at the same time, I feel like there a lot of what I'm doing in here is modeling how to be civilized and respectful to each other. That really, I think, is probably one of the most important things that I do in this job.
As a special ed teacher, too, I mean, you have to be, you're a real generalist because you're dealing with business, you're dealing with math, you're dealing with English, you're dealing with history. I mean, you have students who are taking classes throughout the entire school that are coming to you and asking for help.
Yeah, and so I have to know too, and this applies to not just subject matter, but also emotional things. I have to know when I'm out of my depth and when I need to triage them elsewhere. So Algebra 2, for example, I might send that person to the math lab.
Right.
And or probability and stats. When I was got my master's, I had statistics. I'm good on a general sense, but there comes a point when I need to send somebody elsewhere. And with, things that are, things that really require a lot further depth about counseling and whatnot, I'll be really authentic and honest with kids. I feel like that's important with just for earning trust. But I think that it's real important that I also know when I need to send them to the nurse or to guidance.
Right.
And then our teamwork that I do with the nurse or with guidance becomes very important too, because sometimes my junction with the student is when, it's a pregnant moment when the time is right the student needs help. That kind of thing can happen.
So how do you cope with everything at the end of the day? What do you do to relax? At 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock when you've turned your computer off, because I know you're working until that late at night. What do you do to relax outside of school?
Twice a week, I do something here called body sculpting.
Okay.
So that's really neat.
Which is
it's lifting weights.
Yeah.
It's exercise. I walk on the weekends. I hike. I look forward to Friday night when the sun rises and sets for my husband on a pizza that I make and a glass of wine. And, some of those, I'm a good cook.
Yeah.
So I make nice dinners.
What do you like to cook?
Savory things, Italian, which brings me to another point.
Okay.
Because this is definitely something that I am doing to help keep me going.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely something that wears on your spirit and your soul.
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, it's a year in special ed is a dog year. Mm-hmm. I mean, my wife has taught special ed at Nokomis for 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine that.
Yeah.
But you have to find things. So I know that creativity is really important to me. I need to have a creative outlet. I need to have something that perhaps to show for, something tangible that I can say, I'm proud of this, I made this. So I've always got something going. Currently it's knitting, but whatever it is, I've always, I'm doing something, whether it's gardening or that or cooking. Right. So that's important. But I also wrote an Astor Grant this year. And
Really?
Yes, and I received a part of my grant.
Congratulations.
And I'm going to Italy.
Wow.
And I'm really excited.
When do you go to Italy?
This April vacation.
How exciting.
So I'm going to be hiking the Amalfi Coast with a friend of mine. And I'd been working in the summer to earn money to do this, so I'm going no matter what. And right. I'm a botanist at heart. I really love plants and, knowing about plants. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be hiking and looking at plants. She's a birder, and we're going to be looking at birds. We're going to be eating and drinking great wine and looking at, each coastal village.
Yeah.
But my grant is to, I am going to draw a parallel between another tourist destination that's on the coast with hiking in a charming coastal fishing
Probably
setting.
Bar Harbor, here we are.
Yeah, and what are the similarities? How does this community not let it get diluted by commercialism? I'm working on establishing a contact at a high school that is geared towards tourism because I want to see if their curriculum has anything to offer us. And ideally, I'd like to have a school trip with our Island Studies Pathways students that goes there, because there are a lot of kids who don't typically go on school trips, but if they can see the parallel between a place where people are doing what they're doing, that would be really cool.
And I mean, the high school sponsor, well, not necessarily sponsors, but sends kids after they've raised all the money and stuff. 2 trips.
We really do a great job.
Talk to someone who's gone to Greece, and I mean, it's just
it's phenomenal,
amazing.
Isn't it? I know, and many of these students have gone more places than I have. So this is a bucket list thing for me, but it's a way to share it, and I think it'd be really cool.
That's fantastic. I spent all of my high school in Bermuda. I grew up in Bermuda, and really you don't appreciate the United States until you've been outside of it. And I mean, I know that we have children here and throughout Maine. Oh my God, get me out of Maine. I've graduated, I've been to high school, I've been to college in Maine. Please let me leave Maine. They have no idea what they're missing until you can experience it, and especially here on the island, and to be able to come back.
And I know that there are kids that who will have no interest in that, and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. But I'd like to be able to, at least through videos and film, bring them back something to show the parallels and just enlarge their horizons a little bit.
Do you speak Italian?
Oh, un po'. Parlo italiano un po'.
Okay.
I've been teaching myself for the last year, like with language tapes and CDs in the car on the way back and forth to work.
So where do you live?
I live in Seal Cove.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I'm married to a teacher.
And what does he teach?
He teaches 5th grade science at Connors Emerson.
Okay. And his name?
David Keefe.
Okay.
And we have one daughter who I am incredibly proud of.
And
her name is Anna Rose, and she went to high school here.
Okay.
And she's now in graduate school at Rhode Island.
And URI? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Marilee
And what is she?
She's studying textile conservation.
Wow. Okay.
Marilee kind of gave her a wonderful start here with the costumes, and she said that Anna absorbed whatever she had to teach. So I'm very grateful to her for taking Anna under her wing and letting her flourish. So she did 4 years as the student costume mistress here.
Wow.
And then she went to Mount Holyoke, and which would have been a horrible school for me, but it was a great school for her. So we're really proud of her.
I would think so. And so how many years has she been at URI?
This is her first year.
Okay.
And so we've adjusted to not having her there. And we have 2 cats.
Okay.
And
what are their names?
I'm definitely, as my students will tell you, because I'm happy to show them cat pictures whenever they'll want to see it. Greta and the Beeper.
And the Beeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And all right, so I normally ask people what the one thing that nobody knows about you, but you're ready to admit now, but you may have done that in terms of the Astor Grant and going to Italy.
No.
No, all right. So
no.
What is it?
I don't think most people know how many other things I've done before I became a teacher.
So what was it? What have you done?
Because I think I'm one of those people that hasn't known what I want to be when I grow up. And on one hand, I envy that in other people.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think I've been, now on this end, I think I've had a lot more careers than most people.
So what have you done before, prior to becoming a teacher?
I was a head cook of a school for emotionally disturbed boys.
Okay.
I was a pastry chef in the Boston area.
Where? At what hotel?
It wasn't a hotel. It was a restaurant called Lenora's in Cambridge.
Okay. How long ago was that?
It was in the early mid-'80s, early mid-'80s.
Okay, my father ran the Sinesta
Oh, okay.
in Cambridge.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. And then I worked for a landscape architect as his office manager, so I did a lot with...
Oh my gosh, from a pastry chef to...
Well, no, I actually had a stint at COA as I was the administrative assistant to the president, which is why I can spot typos really instantly.
Yeah.
It's a weird skill. They, have to be able to spell well, and so anyway. So college administration, and development, had a little background in that, and then a stint of 7 years as a landscape architect's office manager.
Wow.
And doing some site work with that, and I guess because when I had having a child, and I was attracted to the field of education because I thought I think that's when things veered off.
So how long have you lived in Seal Cove?
Since '87.
All right, and where did you do? So you've done all. I mean, you were in Boston. Where?
That's where the food career was, and then the food career moved up here. I worked at George's Restaurant when I first came here.
Okay.
And then from there to COA and the landscape architecture, and then into regular ed. At first I wanted to be a K-8 teacher, but a friend, a colleague here, who took a year sabbatical, she convinced me, she and Owen Logue convinced me to try this, and I'm really glad that I work with teenagers. I really like teenagers. I know that some people don't feel that way, but I really do. I think they're
lucky to have you.
Well, thank you. I feel that way because I mean, I feel when I do have a connection with a kid, I really enjoy that they treat me like a human being and let me know them, because they're also different. I have girls who are sassy little whippersnappers, and then I have some that are really fragile and need a whole different approach. And the same with the boys, that there are some jocks who I really hope when they leave that they're going to treat women with respect. That's really important to me. And I think they will, because they've let me in.
Yeah.
That means so much to me. I love that.
There's this circle of domestic violence in Maine that's just so troubling.
I couldn't agree more. And so I think if I'm respectful to them, they learn how to be respectful to me. That's honorable and important work.
Right.
I mean, apart from the learning disabilities or ADHD or whatever the profile is, I'll help them learn to understand the deck of cards they got dealt.
Right.
But I really hope that I help them learn how to be good citizens, good people.
Yeah. What's the best thing about teaching here at MDI High School?
At MDI High School, being able to be a team is huge. I couldn't do this job if I wasn't able to, turn to colleagues for perspective or joking. I mean, sometimes it might sound to an outsider like cynicism, but it isn't. It's support and it's optimism, a lot of it, I think. I think we keep trying, and we keep trying to do things better, and and I think that trying to be a good colleague to each other really matters.
All right, the camera's yours. What do you want to say?
Oh, I don't know. I have Pishwa.
All right. Well, that's a good way to end.
I know.
Well, go ahead.
Arrivederci.
That's it. Going to what's your favorite Italian food?
Oh, well, I love wine and cheese. I love lasagna. But fresh mozzarella,
Do you make it yourself?
No, I haven't learned how to do that. No. No, but I intend to eat some.
Well, spring break can't come fast enough.
Exactly.
All right, that's this week, Meet the MDI Teacher. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Check out all the videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel. Thank you.
You're welcome.